The Principal Auditor notes that while basic salaries of public officers are shown in the estimates of revenue and expenditure, there is no information available to the general public on the number, type and value of each individual allowance they earn. It means there are over 100 different allowances, more than a third of which are pensionable. This means that when someone who receives such an allowance retires, the allowance is taken into account as well as their final salary, thereby significantly augmenting their pension benefits. In his audit study, the Principal Auditor splits the allowances granted into four main areas: government, the Gibraltar Health Authority, elderly residential services and industrial grades. The largest number of employees, and consequently the highest sum paid out in allowances, were in government. 2,490 officers collectively received allowances to the value of £11.4 million. In the GHA, there were 1,204 officers, with £6.99 million paid out in allowances. Meanwhile, £1.61 million was distributed among 300 staff in ERS, and 543 industrial employees received £1.21 million between them, making a grand total in allowances paid of £21.2 million. The Attorney General, who in the year under review had a salary of £135,000, received the single largest allowance by far, £288,000, thus more than trebling his income for that year. Next was the Chief Justice, who was paid an accommodation allowance of £57,500, in addition to his £147,000 salary. Two allowances totalling almost £69,000 were related to the government's office in Brussels, but it's not clear from the report whether both were paid to the same officer or to two different ones. Other notable allowances include an average £32,000 on-call commission paid to 7 officers in the GHA, £31,500 for each of 2 anaesthetists, and an out-of-hours supplement of nearly £24,000 each received by 33 GHA staff. There were significant allowances too for personnel in numerous departments, including the Fire and Rescue Services, Customs, the Prison and the Housing Works Agency. The most common allowance across the public service was a shift disturbance allowance, paid to 604 employees, an average per officer of £4,877. As regards industrial grades, the highest allowance was awarded to 43 refuse collectors, who each received an average allowance of £10,720. The Principal Auditor has not included in his audit certain payments which are classified as allowances by the government, but which he says are not truly allowances for the purposes of his exercise. They include MP salaries, time in lieu payments, gratuities and performance-related pay. These account for a further £3.2 million of expenditure.